Alright, let's talk about marriage. It's a beautiful, complicated, and sometimes legally baffling institution. Now, most people think of marriage as being between two individuals. But what happens when you add more people to the equation? That's where we get into the concepts of bigamy and polygamy. Bigamy is the simpler of the two. It's the act of getting married to someone while you are still legally married to another person. Think of it as accidentally double booking your entire life. It's not just a social faux pas. In many places, it's a crime. It's the legal system essentially saying, look, we can barely handle one marriage certificate per person. Don't push it. Polygamy, on the other hand, is the broader practice of having more than one spouse at the same time. It's like a subscription service for marriage, but without a clear cancellation policy. This umbrella term covers two main types. The most common form is polygyny, which is when one man has multiple wives. The much rarer form is polyandry, where one woman has multiple husbands. For the sake of most legal discussions around the world, when people say polygamy, they are almost always talking about polygyny. It's a practice that has existed for centuries across various cultures and religions, but modern law has had a very complicated relationship with it. So, to be crystal clear, bigamy is the specific illegal act of entering a second marriage, while polygamy is the general state of having multiple spouses. You can think of it this way. All bigamists are practicing polygamy, but not everyone practicing polygamy in a place where it's allowed is committing bigamy. In countries that ban it, the law often doesn't recognize the second, third, or fourth marriage as valid. It treats them as if they never happened, legally speaking. This is where things get messy, because while the marriage might be void, the relationships, children, and financial entanglements are very real. This distinction is crucial because it frames how different legal systems approach the issue. Is it a criminal act to be punished, like in Canada, or is it a family arrangement that, while not officially recognized, needs some form of legal framework to protect the people involved, especially women and children? The answer depends entirely on where you are. Some countries slam the door shut with criminal charges, while others leave it slightly ajar, acknowledging that life is often more complex than a simple one-spouse-per-person rule allows. And that global patchwork of laws is exactly what makes this topic so endlessly fascinating and frustrating. When you look at how the world handles polygamy, you'll find that most countries have put up a big, flashing no vacancy sign on the institution of marriage. The vast majority of nations, particularly those with legal systems rooted in Christian traditions, have outright criminalized it. In places like the United Kingdom or Canada, marrying a second person while still married to the first isn't just frowned upon, it's a crime called bigamy. The second marriage is legally null and void, meaning it has no legal standing. It's like trying to pay for groceries with monopoly money. The cashier will look at you, sigh, and then possibly call security. This near-universal ban in the Western world is quite strict. In Canada, for instance, not only is bigamy illegal under the criminal code, but so is participating in any kind of polygamous relationship, even without a formal marriage ceremony. However, the legal system sometimes has to deal with the messy reality. For example, while you can't be legally married to two people, some provinces have property laws that might recognize multiple marriage-like relationships when it comes to dividing assets. It's the law's way of admitting, okay, this is not supposed to happen. But since it did, we have to figure out who gets the toaster. But flip the globe over, and you'll find a completely different story. In a large number of Muslim-majority countries, from West Africa to Southeast Asia, polygyny is legally permitted and regulated under religious personal laws. Islamic law, or Sharia, allows a man to have up to 4 wives, provided he can treat them all justly and support them equally, a condition that is, you might imagine, incredibly difficult to fulfill. Still, countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Pakistan have legal frameworks that fully recognize these marriages. It's a stark contrast to the West, showing how deeply religion and culture can shape a nation's core family laws. Even within this divide, there are fascinating exceptions. Turkey and Tunisia, both Muslim-majority nations, have banned polygamy, modeling their laws on European secular legal codes. Meanwhile, some countries operate a dual system. In Nigeria, for example, polygamy is illegal under civil law, but it is legally recognized under Sharia law in the northern states. This creates a situation where the legality of your marriage literally depends on what part of the country you're in and which legal system you follow. It's a perfect example of how one nation can contain completely contradictory ideas about what constitutes a legal family. And now, let's travel to India, specifically the state of Assam, which just made a very bold move. On November 27, 2025, the Assam Assembly passed a new bill to ban polygamy for everyone, regardless of their religion. The chief minister was quick to state that this law isn't targeting any specific community, but is meant to apply universally. This is a big deal in India, where different religions have historically been allowed to follow their own personal laws regarding marriage, divorce, and inheritance. Assam is essentially saying, we're moving to one set of rules for everyone on this issue, which is a legally and politically charged decision. The penalties in this new law are not messing around. If you get caught entering into a second marriage, you could face up to 7 years in prison and a fine. If you try to be sneaky and hide the fact that you're already married, that sentence can jump to 10 years. The law also goes after anyone who helps make a polygamous marriage happen, be it a priest, a qazi, or even the parents. They too can face jail time and fines. It's a clear signal that the government wants to stop the practice itself, not just punish the individuals getting married. But the consequences don't stop at prison. Anyone convicted under this act will be barred from getting a government job, receiving benefits from government programs, or running for any election in Assam. This is a powerful deterrent, as it ties the act of polygamy directly to a person's civil and economic future. The government is using both criminal punishment and social disqualification to enforce its new standard. The bill also includes provisions for the victim, usually the first wife, to receive financial compensation, acknowledging the harm that polygamy can cause within a family. Interestingly, the law does have some specific exemptions. It won't apply to the state's scheduled tribes or to certain autonomous regions governed under the 6th schedule of the Constitution. This acknowledges that some indigenous communities have their own customary laws that may permit practices like polygamy. So, while the bill aims for uniformity, it also carves out space for traditional customs in specific communities. This makes the Assam law a complex piece of legislation, a push for modern, uniform rights that simultaneously respects certain long-standing cultural exceptions. It's a tightrope walk, and the whole country is watching. So why is polygamy such a hot-button issue on the world stage? Well, from the perspective of international law, it's seen as a major human rights problem. The United Nations Human Rights Committee has stated very clearly that polygamy violates the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The main argument is that it undermines the equality of spouses. The practice, almost always in the form of polygyny, institutionalizes discrimination against women and infringes upon their dignity. Essentially, international bodies look at it and say, this isn't a fair or equal setup, and have repeatedly recommended that it be outlawed everywhere. This stance is supported by countries like Canada, whose Department of Justice has argued that polygyny is a fundamental violation of international human rights law. However, there's a catch. Not every country has signed on to these international agreements. Several nations where polygamy is legal, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Malaysia, are not signatories to the ICCPR. This creates a fundamental disagreement on a global scale. It's like a worldwide debate where one side is citing a rule book that the other side refuses to even open, making consensus pretty much impossible. The stark differences in marriage laws around the world come down to a clash of fundamental values. Is marriage a secular contract between two equal individuals, or is it a religious and cultural institution governed by ancient traditions? For many Western countries, the answer is clearly the former. Their laws are built on the principles of individual rights, gender equality, and the separation of church and state. In this framework, polygamy is seen as an outdated practice that is incompatible with modern values of equality. The focus is on protecting the individual from potential harm and ensuring legal clarity. Ultimately, laws about marriage are a reflection of what a society values most. In some places, that value is uniformity and individual equality before the law, leading to a strict ban on polygamy. In others, the priority is preserving religious freedom and cultural traditions. which allows for practices like polygamy to continue under specific legal or customary systems. There is no single global standard for what a family must look like, and that's why a marriage that is perfectly legal in one country can be a criminal offense just across the border. It's a messy, complicated, and deeply human issue, and it's not getting simpler anytime soon.